they appear to be separate. They are not separate, but they appear to separate. Like us, we're part of that same thing, but we're also in that same relationship with that band of frequency that we call the angels, where our root system is connected to their root system. So there is a place where we go to tune them in. So the heart is the non-dual chakra that we have. So it doesn't know the fear. It can only, when it's open, there is no fear. And that is our channel or our antenna to the divine right there, your cosmic love antenna right there.
Welcome, beautiful beings, to season 2 of the Cosmic Love Antenna podcast with your host, Harrison Ma. This podcast sets the loving intention of creating the mystical space needed to pull back the layers restricting health, alignment, and love. Now let's walk you home to your cosmic spiritual heart space. Before we continue this beautiful chat today, wonderful souls, I need to jump in here to share something really exciting. If you've been following these episodes or you've been following me on social media, you know that I am in the process of releasing my first book, Your Cosmic Love Antenna, Define, Embody, and Emit Your Unique Frequency of Love. And at the time of this episode release, pre-orders are now open. If you have been pulled to this show, if you're looking to understand the what, the how, and the why of love, if you're looking to apply some of the tools connected to your chakras, inner child, releasing religious trauma, ancestral healing, emotional release, and so much more, then this beautiful expression from my heart to yours is for you. If you are looking to channel more of your unique gifts and the divine frequency that you are, these pages will open all of this up. And if you're interested, all you need to do is go to cosmicloveantenna.com. That's cosmicloveantenna.com. And you can pre-order this book right now. If you pre-order, click on that link, put in your email, you're going to get access to some special gifts that I'm only offering to those who get in before I release it fully. These gifts are going to be some more channeled meditations, activations, and some other surprises from my heart to yours. So head over to cosmicloveantenna.com, pre-order this beautiful expression, and I can't wait to hear how it shifts your life. If you're listening to this after pre-order sales, that same link can be also used to go to the direct purchase link. Sending love, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of this episode today. Good morning, evening, afternoon, beautiful beings. Welcome back to the show and another loving, mystical, spiritual deep dive into a topic that is near and dear to my heart. And if it's on my heart, it's most likely on yours. So thank you for being here. Before I get into the magical, powerful man that I have here on the show today to talk about all things angels, channeling, opening up your beautiful intuitive gifts, a reminder, if you are a returning tribe member or you are new to this frequency, new to this conversation, a way that you can support the show today is by sharing this out if it hits your heart with a friend, a lover, or family member. You can also leave your feedback, your comments, your extra questions over on Spotify or Apple in reviews and feedback. This helps us expand the show and get this out to more people that might need it. But with that, today, I want to really introduce a powerful man and guide. The powerful Seth is a intuitive in his own heart. He's a hypnotherapist, an angelic realm energy healer and channel, and he is a graceful soul, which you'll soon feel and get to tune into. Today, I have the pleasure to chat with Seth about all things angelic channeling, really what this is, opening up that channel to bring in abundance, bring in extra intuition. I want to have a conversation around what is the male, the masculine role in this, because obviously we are two male energies, and I think it's very important to highlight. I also want to talk about all things hypnosis, tarot, and so much more. Seth, welcome to the Cosmic Love Antenna, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's we were just having a chat before we started recording, and you're in Washington State up in North America. I'm here in Australia, but you don't know this. I didn't share this with you. it's overcast. The weather, it's very rainy here, and it's also very rainy where you are. And I know at the time you were reflecting on this. It's an energy of inner reflection and contemplation.
I find the rain refreshing. And as I was mentioning to you before, I'm actually from Southern California, where it hardly ever rains. And it's interesting because when it does rain, when you live in Southern California, it is so refreshing and such a nice surprise. And here in this area where I'm at, temporarily, it rains often, a lot. In fact, it's known for its rain. And people are like, oh man, the rain again. And I'm from Southern California. I'm all excited. I'm like, ooh, yay, the rain. But it is very refreshing and it's very relaxing, and it gives you an opportunity to sink into levels of your higher self.
Yeah. And I, just from a sort of spiritual lens, I don't think that's a coincidence, right? When you think about the energy that is rain, or the symbol that is rain, and its ability to allow our sensitivities and emotions to flow. When we then take that inwards, of course, our intuition starts to flow, because the external is really that mirror of the internal space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Seth, I'd love to start here before we get into all things channeling and angels and all the beautiful mystical topics. I'd love to know a bit about your awakening. And I know we could do a whole chat about this, but I'm wondering what comes up. I like starting these conversations for people to tune into your spirit, your soul, really getting a little bit of a quick background of, you are this powerful, spiritual, intuitive channeler and teacher and healer. I'm wondering, was this a gradual process for you, or was there a moment, a big pain teacher that came into your life that really helped you see more of yourself?
Oh, absolutely. There were several pain teachers, and it all is a matter of how you frame it. And if not in the moment, eventually you get the wisdom and the perspective to be able to reframe it. So absolutely. And I love this part of the conversation because it's an opportunity for those that are listening to relate their own journey to yours and see the same power in themselves, which I absolutely love. So first of all, I grew up a very sensitive child. And so, it was very interesting because my dad was a little surprised not to get this little boy that loved to play football with him and go hunting and kill animals and things like that. And I used to cry on the playground when boys were bullying other boys. In fact, I got bullied for the crying. Now, fast forward throughout my life, my mother has Irish heritage. Her grandmother came from Ireland during the potato famine, emigrated to the United States. And she was very alive and spiritual with the angels and that sort of thing. And I remember communicating with some energy field that was wise and taught me so many amazing, powerful things that I didn't learn in school. An example of which I love is understanding that the love in our heart isn't ours. It doesn't belong to us. So therefore we don't hoard it. And if we don't allow it to flow through us, then we're the ones who lose out, and taught me how that is in consciousness and that sort of thing. And I was aware of that as a kid. But in order to fit in, I went another path, and success was my goal, to which I achieved.
Seth, can I jump in here? Because I want to, before you get into this, the adult life, I want to ask a question about that, the school setting and the bullying and the emotions and the feelings at that moment in time. Because I know, I think people listening maybe have picked up that your story is very similar to mine. I had when you as soon as you shared that, I was like, oh, this is already, I'm very, very pulled to this man's energy. And now this is going a little bit deeper because very same scenario in my mind. But the question is in my history. But my question for you, Seth, is in that moment of trauma and bullying and pain and emotion, did you turn to that spirit that was coming into your life as your mum was showing you, or did that still take some time?
That still took some time, actually. Yeah, that still took some time. And what ended up happening as a result of that is a diminished sense of self-worth, because there was a lot of the bullying, but it was also a lot of criticism and diminishing things like that. I had struggled with my weight at certain parts of a child, so I got made fun of for being overweight. I was made fun of because of the kind of car my mom drove. There was lots of different things that they picked out. And so every step along the way, my human being was surmising that I am a valueless being, or that I didn't or wasn't adequate in any way or any category. I wasn't athletic or anything like that. And it was separate and more like an escape that was separate from the bullying, where I had the opportunity to be on my own and introspective. And when I was on my own, I got to know certain things, or I just automatically fell into this reflective, expansive state of being. And it was just that I had a propensity to.
Yeah. I think Seth, what comes up in me as I'm hearing you speak, I was talking to a friend a couple of days ago about how a lot of our spiritual gifts, especially as a young person, as a child going into teenage and then early adulthood, a lot of our spiritual gifts and our feelings and our emotions and all the things that you were just describing, if there's no incubation and education and support around it, it's very easy for it to be not just suppressed, but also seen as something that's different, seen as something that is sick, seen as something that is not right. So then you see a lot of people growing up having mental health challenges, and I'm by no means saying that taking any sort of emphasis away from real mental health conditions. But what I am saying is a lot of these suppressed energetic and spiritual connections can come up as these mental challenges that aren't being nurtured and loved. So it just, I have a lot of compassion for not just you, but other people in your situation.
It's true. Now, I have come to assess the situation a little differently than I would have had at the time, because I see everything in life as a series of soul agreements. And so I accept that I agreed to or chose my parents because of the path that they would be on. And I chose the school that I would be at. And I chose the place where I even chose my bullies. And since we are all the same being, but in a different body, I chose these wonderful, amazing parts of myself to create awareness in this dimension around compassion and humility. And so that was a firmly planted attribute. And then as you go along and you begin to work on creating an accurate view, in other words, allowing the distortion of inadequacy to drop and stepping into divine awareness and seeing yourself as who you truly are, as that happens, it makes it a bit more of a surprise. It does. It's like, wow, oh, cool, this is amazing. And yet I do know that there are, in so many ways and in so many layers, there is a way that we discover that was set up to actually create so many blessings. And then you see it that way, and it's great,
Thank you for pointing that out. And it's, I usually get a lot of images when I do these in my third eye, when I do these interviews. And as you're explaining that, I just got a lot of light coming in. So it's a beautiful affirmation of truth, right? That we all can, and it doesn't have to be in hindsight either, right? It doesn't have to be, hindsight helps, but if we, in the moment, in the pain itself, we can open ourselves up and ask, right, is this, I know it's hard for a lot of people, especially if we're getting taken away by the emotions, by the thought forms, but it's very, I'd encourage people listening, when the pain teacher arises in any form, if we can surrender and lean into it, often there's more love and divinity there, as Seth is saying. But Seth, let's jump forward a little bit here. And you're heading into your professional life, and I want to sort of tap this into the first question I have for you. And it is around sort of angelic realm, angelic consciousness channeling. So maybe you can explain, one, what that is, and two, how did you sort of land in that space?
Well, I think starting with how I landed in the space, it actually gives some framework for anyone at any stage in developing this, whether you're outside and skeptical or whether you're already in the circle. And that is, at the time that I was introduced to the angels I was in the middle of, having a great big setback with my work, but also I found myself in a one-sided relationship, and that one-sided relationship was ending. It was very unsatisfying to have given all of myself to someone, have it not reciprocated, and then have them reject me in the end, which so many of us who have these gifts have such an inexhaustible ability to give that we'll find ourselves at some point in one of those relationships, either platonic or otherwise. And in that moment, I was having a bit of a breakdown. And to be honest with you, I literally prayed to God, who I had kind of abandoned because religion and its construct never hit a chord of truth with me. Yeah. I never, to frame what I mean is so that it's taken correctly, I noticed the absence of love in the religion that my family practiced. And I knew that God was unconditional love, or the creator is unconditional love. And so I knew fear, the fear that was propagated in that religion, to be the antithesis of love, which is God. So you can't teach to me about God, who is love, by trying to make me afraid, which is not his energy or its energy. So I knew that as a kid from all of that, that what would have been later understood as channeling as a kid. So I actually said a little prayer, and I said, all right, God, I don't want to be here anymore. Just take me. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to shoot myself. I'm not going to do anything like that. But, if you're going to give me what I want, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go back home. And the minute I said that, I knew that I wasn't going to get my wish. And I said, all right, you know what? Fine. I know you're not going to do that for me. Then I want my angels. I've never seen them, never heard them. I'm told that they're there, and yet I've never seen them, and they're not doing a very good job right now. So I want a very...
And Seth, just a quick question. Your only reference on angels at this point was religious teachings, correct?
Mostly my mom talking about angels, because she's has that Irish in her, and Irish people are very big into the energy beings. Yeah. If you've ever been to Ireland, it's a very mystical place.
I haven't been, but another similarity that we have, my dad's side is Irish heritage. So it's as you speak, I haven't in this incarnation, in this lifetime, I haven't spent time there yet, but there's a lot of truth moving through me. So yes.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. When you get off the plane, your heart chakra is wide open, and they call it the Emerald Isle. And it's considered the heart chakra of the world. So interestingly enough, so I said, if I've got angels here, I need actual tangible proof. I don't mean like everything's going to be okay, blah, blah, blah. I need to see, feel, hear something. I need something to actually move in my 3D reality, or I didn't say 3D reality, but I need something to move in the real world to actually make me know that there are angels there. And at that moment, I felt something touching my body, as if there was a being touching my body. And I was overcome with peace. And as I was overcome with peace, I heard something inside that was coming from another being, but I heard it, and it said, everything is going to be not only okay, but better than okay. So I went to sleep feeling very peaceful. And the peace that I was overcome with had nothing to do with my ability to shift my own thoughts into peace. I was given a dose of some form of love or energy that raised my awareness into a place where I could have peace. And it wasn't from me, it was from a healing force. And if that wasn't enough, my dog and cat, I could feel the energy around me, like encircling me. And my dog and cat jumped up on the bed and they started looking around the room as if they could see them too. And so they were looking straight at them and looking around like they would when there was a person, people there. So I thought, well, that's cool. I'll never be able to tell anyone about this because they'll think I'm weird. And then the very next day I was getting dressed and I heard like, hello. And I'm like, hello. And the statement was, you may think that we came to you in response to this event, but try looking at things a little bit differently in order to see them accurately. They said that the event was sent because it was an agreed upon time for me to call them in my life, that we would be working together. And so this
Seth, let me jump in here because there's so much bubbling up and I want to keep hearing the rest of the story. But you've pointed out a couple times here because I want to catch the listeners up just in case this is new to them. Because the intention of these episodes is there's always a foundation of education here. And you've brought up the relationship to the heart and angels multiple times already in your beautiful experience. And I think this for me, and I've spoken about this on other episodes when I've brought up angels, this for me, and I would love to get your reflection on this as with all the work that you do, this has really been the gateway into the angelic realm for me, is through the heart specifically, right? I also grew up in a religious context of learning what angels were and were not. And not only did I see them as another extension of that fear consciousness and unworthiness outside of me that I need to prove myself to ask for them, there was also a disconnect of that love. But now in this experience that I'm in, every situation that I've had with an angelic consciousness, whether it's my own or it's an external entity, it's always been through the heart. It's always been straight into the heart space and the heart consciousness. So I'm wondering, why do you think that is, my friend? Why does angelic consciousness speak so directly into the heart space?
I love that. So it's interesting. I actually teach a course. I do group coaching where I teach people how to have a deep connection with your angels so that you can navigate life with their guidance, because they are there to guide us and they're there to help us manifest and all of that. And the first and foundational module that the angels asked me to teach is about love and its relationship with the communication and the heart. So it's funny that you say that, because the first class we dive into this topic and the angels asked me to start there. And one of the things that I teach when I teach that, and first of all, I'm going to give credit back to the angels because they ask me to relay what I teach. So it's not my teachings, it's theirs, and they teach through me. But they use the reference of a radio tune-in, and they use the reference of frequency. And it's so interesting because we're accustomed to the modality of radio when we want to listen to music. And for those of us old enough to remember, when you would actually manually tune a dial, which would then tune in based on frequency, and then we would receive a channel, a radio station channel. And the same thing is true with when we use the reference of channeling. We're receiving a remote signal through, let's say, waves on the quantum field. Same thing, but only it's internal, right? And I always find it very interesting that we believe that we could have the technology to put a wireless router, in our room and receive, open up our computer and check out the latest features that, that are on a car we want to order. But, we can't believe that our divine beings that are created by the Creator could use that same sort of emulate that same thing to speak to us. But I
think that's, Seth, just to jump in there, I think a reason for that, and I want you to keep going, but I think a reason for that is that fear consciousness that you were talking about before. We don't feel worthy. We don't feel like we can be that radio. Like you said it so quickly because you're so obviously so confident and proficient at this. But what you said was, I am the channel that relays their divine truth. Most people would have trouble even saying that sentence, let alone embodying it, right? So sorry, keep going. Just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, and we're all getting there because we're all leading each other there, which is
Yes.
so beautiful. Some of us have just asked to be the way showers, which is great. And everybody has it in them, which is amazing.
Yes.
And when we do actually allow ourselves out of the fear consciousness in order to actually see beyond what we have been taught to stay in fear, then we actually get the opportunity to see what's really there, which is more amazing than we can possibly imagine. But the angels use that sort of frequency analogy, and it's not such an analogy after all, because the same principles as above, so below with the radio dial is that when our heart is actually open and in the frequency of unconditional love, now we're in the same frequency on the quantum field as the angels themselves. And the angels, just for clarity, because people always ask me like, well, who do you talk to? And the angels is a band of consciousness that exists at a higher frequency. And while we can have a relationship with Raphael and Metatron and the Gabriel, and I even have Nancy, the parking angel, who's very helpful in Los Angeles, where it's very difficult to park. But Nancy always comes to the rescue. At any rate, they're all still part of a band of frequency. And I use the analogy of the forest because underneath the ground, all the trees in the forest have the same root system and they're interconnected in one organism. Yet above the ground, they appear to be separate. They are not separate, but they appear to separate. Like us, we're part of that same thing, but we're also in that same relationship with that band of frequency that we call the angels, where our root system is connected to their root system. So there is a place where we go to tune them in. So the heart is the non-dual chakra that we have. So it doesn't know the fear. It can only, when it's open, there is no fear. And that is our channel or our antenna to the divine right there, your cosmic love antenna right there.
I see what you did there. I see what you did.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Seth, let me flow in here. So first of all, it was a beautiful explanation. And I think it really pushes through a lot of confusion, not just that fear consciousness that we were already speaking about, but also the personification of the angels, or the man, the sort of, what's the word? The putting the man symbol or the human shape on the angels. And I think that can be valuable to a degree. And we may get to that level that we can have that dynamic and see them in certain forms. But the deeper truth is what you're saying in terms of that angelic consciousness, and most importantly, our relationship to that angelic consciousness. Now, I'll give an example here. I teach about how we have different subtle energy bodies, and we're all familiar that we have a physical energy body, we have a mental energy body, we have an emotional energy. They're the ones that most people, even with little understanding, they can push through, right? They can get a concept of. But I think what most of us don't accept and don't understand is that we also have an angelic energy body. We have a piece of our multidimensional being that is angelic consciousness, that we have angelic consciousness. So when you say that we can tap into that field to bring them into our heart space, it's because we also have that same consciousness that is us, that allows them to come in to interact with. Would you agree with that?
Well, absolutely. And of course, one of the places that I hang out and live in is Sedona, which is a globally recognized spot for conscious people. Yeah, it's a very amazing portal, and it's probably becoming one of my primary home spots as a digital nomad doing this work. And you can be in a room with people who are like, well, but I'm from this planet and I'm, a star seed from this, but I'm come from the angelic realm. And it's very interesting because it's all the same. And there's no distinction whether you came from a planet in this star system or whatever. And it's interesting that we're recognizing that we're not limited to the form that we see in the mirror. We're getting ready collectively to take it a level deeper and realize that there is still no separation in that sort of star seed earth angel conversation. And I'm going to say this and pop this in there, but I'm also noticing people beginning to see the truth behind the every opposing polarity conversation that has been heightened in the last few years, be it political, conservative versus liberal kind of thing, or be it any conversation about the events that are taking place or that seem to be taking place, however you want to interpret that. And people are kind of coming back to like, wait a second, none of this matters if I'm not connected to those that I'm truly connected to. So I'm starting to see that boomerang come back. And for those that aren't, be encouraged, because it's out there, it's happening. It has to, because of the unity that we are. We can't be separated. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I'm happy that you brought in the starseed conversation and the labels that we can, at first really compassionately and lovingly go all in on, but then those things also become another ego mask that we put on, that much like the spiritual master or the teacher or the mother or the father becomes another thing that we can hide behind and forget the deeper truth of. So it's a very big distinction, I think, for people listening. Because I've talked about it on this show. I've talked about the value of really acknowledging the history of your soul and all of that. But the deeper truth is, if you're getting stuck in those labels and those terms, it's just as challenging, and there's just as much resistance as if you're getting stuck in, human form, human labels, all those things.
Sure. Well, the essence of who we all are, every one of us, earthling, starseed, earth angel, or whomever, potato, is that we are infinite multidimensional beings having an experience of being in a reality that appears to be limited so that we can shatter those limitations. And so if we stay attached to those labels, and we can have them as part of our journey, which is great, and then we get to shatter those too, because it's a ladder upward towards our infinite nature, because this is all just, one of the things the angels remind me, which is this sort of crucible of my work with the angels, and why conscious creativity is such a valuable role in this, is the angels say, everybody acknowledges that the earth plane is a school for the soul, but nobody has ever mentioned what is the subject of study. And the angel said the subject of study is conscious creativity, and that our true design is the ability to create in the same fashion that the creator does. So in other words, the creator, like all capital letters, did not go to the central bank and borrow money to create the giraffe. The creator did not build a factory to make the koala bear. That was all purely from thought and the frequency of unconditional love. So every quote unquote lesson that we have here is all in an effort to up-level our unconditional love and our ability to believe that whatever we want to create with our mind, our higher mind, that we can. And when those get up-leveled to a certain point, then we get to create worlds with the creator.
Mm.
And so we're sent to school here in a simulation. And that simulation is of a world that appears to be falling apart, that we're supposed to save with the light, so that then we understand how to use it. And so then when you actually get to the point where you realize, okay, everything is about up-leveling my frequency, up-leveling my ability to believe that I can consciously create and to tap into my true design, which is to create just like the creator did. And as you can see, that's why we have what we have now, where the finite systems that are actually in alignment with ego or the logical linear mind, they are collapsing right now as we step into more of our true nature collectively. So the banking system will be gone, the governmental system will be gone, religions will be gone, because they're all false constructs from the mind, which is linear and logical. But the divine and true creativity happens at the level of the quantum, which is instant manifestation, which is everything is possible, which is only abundance. And we're stepping into that.
Sorry, keep going. I was just going to say, it just also happens to be the level of love too, right? That quantum space is that heart space, right?
The energy of love, and the energy of love is the quantum energy, is life force energy, whatever that particle is. The angels remind us that maybe over 95%, maybe even over 98% of the physical universe is energy. The rest is physical. So when we're trying to manifest from the doing and the action, we're only working at it from a very, very small portion, which is why it is so important to feel the love. And what's interesting is that love is not a feeling, it's our awareness to it that causes us to feel it. So all we're doing is we're raising our awareness. It's always there, which again brings us into the same quantum realm where our guidance is, where our angels are, which is where is our highest intelligences. And I mean that in a non-linear fashion, which is that ability. And so much love gets opened up from that, which is why you always know if something's connected to the quantum realm, which was my litmus test for religion in the beginning, is if I go into a space and I don't feel the feeling, a very recognizable feeling, it has a very recognizable feeling for all of us. And that is when I become aware of the presence of love in this room, then I know that the quantum creator is here, God, whatever word you want to use. And if it's not here, then it, he, whatever is absent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so much in there, my friend, that we could break down.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that you shared that, because all these themes that you just beautifully highlighted, just for people listening and tuning in, I'm going to put a couple episodes in the show notes specifically connecting to manifestation. I'm sure you're aware of Greg Braden's work, my friend. You've read his books, and he talks a lot about this link between just the feeling heart space and the manifestation, and how, the quantum really teaches the past and the future are folding into the present, and the present is in that divine heart space moment. And coming back to angels and channeling, and this is also all done in that heart space, right? It's a reason, and I'm happy you made the distinction. One of the things that you expressed was, this is not a linear. When we connect to our higher self, or we are channeling angelic consciousness, or we are connecting into God, which again we can sometimes see like there's this tier and ladder. It's not a higher, but more of a deeper into that heart space portal, right? We're going into the deeper layers of self to come back to that truth. But Seth, a question I want to ask you here, and it's sort of a little change of topic, but still within this angelic consciousness. A question I want to just ask you that is more of an interest, and I think it's going to give value to people listening. Are you familiar with Dolores's work, Dolores Cannon? I'm sure you've read a lot of her. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take that lovely laugh.
Wait to hear the relationship, but go ahead.
Yeah. A question I want to ask you, and this connects back to what we're talking about before with our relationship to angelic consciousness, how our having an angelic body, and then we attract in outside angels, channel them. In your work that you've done with past life, with hypnosis and connecting to people and doing regressions, do you feel that the soul that we are, the soul that is Harrison, I'll use me as an example, is there a possibility that the soul that is me has had a past life as an angelic entity, or has the possibility in the future to have a life as an angelic entity, as the soul that I am?
So cool story. And this there's two parts of this that will connect, and I will make it succinct and palatable to follow. So first of all, with Dolores, the work that we do and the conversation that we're having is about bringing in the new earth. And the new earth is us stepping into a greater level of our true identity of being a conscious creator. That's why the conversation leads to the destruction or the evolutionary fail of all of the unsustainable linear systems, and the introduction of a more conscious planet, or a planet that stepped into its conscious, not becoming more conscious, it's becoming aware of how conscious it is. And it will create at a whole different level and have a whole different reality built in abundance and power and all of that. And it's interesting because for whatever reason, while I've channeled the angels, I've always made sure not to filter what I get from them by sort of following other people and reading other work. I've just literally relied on them for everything that I've become aware of.
Which is important, just for people listening. Like when you start to build your channel, it's important to do that, right?
Mm-hmm. 2 years ago, I came across Dolores's work. And it was very interesting because she wrote books about the new earth and all of that. And everything that she got from her subjects through hypnosis was the same exact information that I was getting from the angels. And of course, I'm also use hypnotherapy. And then it's interesting because there's a lot of overlay of misinformation about hypnosis. And I'm going to actually shatter that in a moment as well. So right after I did that, Dolores came to me in a dream, and she says, "I'm watching over you because you're doing the same work."
Was she alive? Was she alive at this point, or she'd passed?
But she's passed.
Okay, this
was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So she's passed already, and this was just a couple years ago. She came to me in a dream, and she comes to me often when pivotal things happen. And she's actually come to me to let me know that something pivotal is about to happen. And it does. It was very interesting that you mentioned her because she's one of my guides. Now, the interesting thing about hypnosis is this. We're talking about consciousness and the quantum field, and we're talking about all that, how love is that quantum field. And it's interesting because hypnosis, where I take people down a different conversation with that, because the powers that be, or let's say the powers that were, never, is they want to present this image of hypnosis like mind control, which is very interesting because that system is mind control, but this one is not. Hypnosis is actually just opening up to the quantum field. So we're familiar with the term mesmerized, which refers to Dr. Mesmer, who was a medical doctor in Germany who realized that there was a quantum field that connected all things. Why not use that to heal the body instead of putting, compounds, which we now call pharmaceuticals, into the body? And so he discovered a way that by opening up to the quantum field, we allow that created the body to heal the body, and it works successfully. Now, those that profit from a different system would like to have you know that this ability to open up to the quantum field, which could be called God if you want to call it that, when you open up to love, God consciousness, that whatever it is that is out of alignment will come back into alignment without having to stick something down your throat.
You'll heal. Yeah.
Completely, because you'll come back into unity with who you truly are, which is a citizen of that quantum field. So when we ail or when we're ill, it's when we have forgotten that we are a citizen of the quantum field and not a citizen of this realm. This realm is a simulation. And that's where the correction takes place. And the correction is the healing. The angels said to me when they first came to me, healing is not fixing something that's broken. It's about coming back into alignment with your authentic
or
self.
homeostasis and balance, right?
Yeah. So if you have a disease like cancer that leads you to reconnectivity to your authentic self, that was the purpose of that message. You didn't heal from cancer. Cancer came in and tapped on your shoulder and said, hey, get back into quantum citizenry. And that's what it was for. But if you take the journey on your own, it's the same healing journey in that sense. Yes.
Beautiful. So with that understanding, my friend, what is your perspective on the angel incarnation element? Have you seen that in your experience, or what are your theories on it?
First of all, this is the cool thing. When you get into, and like Dolores, for example, she allowed people to go into hypnosis, and hypnosis is just an expanded state of consciousness where we're able to access the quantum field without the filter of mind interfering or distorting what we get.
Yeah.
That's what it is, right? So what's interesting is that I go in naturally when I do the work. So what happens is, as an angel channel, I have a natural propensity to shut the mind off and go into that. We all have that ability, and that's what I teach when I teach people how to connect. But what's interesting, having visited that realm and that particular topic, what's interesting is all of these lives that you talk about are not past and future. They're simultaneous. They are simultaneous.
Break this down for people, my friend, because this is so confusing to explain and to elaborate on. So how is it possible to go into a past life regression and see these past lives, but it also existing in this present moment? Break that down for people.
Great. So, it's interesting because when I use hypnosis, I don't always call it regression anymore. I bring in the angels or the quantum consciousness and then let that take people where it's supposed to. And in some cases, it takes people into their future in this lifetime where they visit the Akashic records. And then they see something that they're supposed to see to know that something's supposed to be all right. So what's interesting is that moment is happening simultaneously. So time is a false construct. And where I like to start with that for people to understand that is, if you ever go in and wait for the dentist or the doctor, that 15 minutes seems like a very long time. When you're concerned or worried about the results of something that are going to take 24 hours or 10 days, that seems like a decade. However, when you go on vacation and you've lost yourself into the fullness of who you are through joy, I remember so many times, I've gone to the airport and I come back and I'm like, doesn't it just seem like I was here 5 minutes ago? So the relationship that we have with time, we've seen it sort of stretch and we've seen it sort of contract. Another way that I point this out is like, we can go have lunch with a friend that we haven't seen in 10 years. And all of a sudden, all the time in the middle just collapses, where we haven't been. So those are some great examples of how we actually bend time, or actually how we transcend the false construct of time already with our understanding of it now. But then you go into deeper layers of consciousness, you go into a timeless state. And it's from there you go, oh, wait a second, everything is happening all at once, including past lives.
And you have access to all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And each of them have something there that has to do with a piece of the puzzle. So, some people go into past lives as a sort of a curiosity, like, what was I before? And to a certain degree, it's to discover some piece of the puzzle. And one of the things that I share, it's interesting because a lot of us who are very interested in this lifetime of accumulating a lot of the pieces of the puzzle to, do our studies here in the Earth School, we find it irresistible to be connected to a multitude of people. And it's interesting because each of us is a different expression of that whole. And the angels explained unity or oneness to me early on when I started communicating with them. And what they mentioned is that each time we meet a person, whether that interaction is what we would call positive or that interaction is what we would call negative, either way, we actually get another piece of the puzzle out of it. And a lot of people who, like right now, I'm a digital nomad, and I realized that it's not because I need to be in a certain city to bring the angels to someone, but each time I go to a different place, I get another piece of the puzzle. So those of us who are on this path are finding ourselves in some way or another bringing in so much multiplicity. And without that multiplicity, whether it's probably like you speaking to so many people around the world through your work or whatever, it has to have that bring you into all of these different interactions because of the opportunity to put together the puzzle and regain more of your quantum nature. And
it's beautiful, Seth. It highlights a couple things. So thank you for breaking down the quantum folding in of the past life concept there. And it really, what bubbles up in me when you share that is an emphasis on really trusting. Like if you are feeling the pull to maybe go spend time with you, for example, and connecting into the angels and doing a session to connect to that consciousness, not forcing what you think should happen. It's so easy within the past life conversation that I've noticed, even in my journey, to think that we need to see a certain thing and that is our answer forward, versus trusting, having the intention and allowing whatever needs to come up for our highest good, right? It's a detaching from that linear perspective and allowing whatever needs to flow. And it really matches with that folding in on itself, because now not only are we moving away from linear time, we're also moving away from linear expectations of I need to do this and then I'm going to do that and then it's going to equal that. And it's really not, that's not the world that we live in. That's not the new earth that you've referenced a couple times.
Correct. And this is why present moment awareness and present moment being is such a powerful creative attribute. Because when you are in this moment and this moment alone, you have now actually reclaimed the most powerful part of your creative ability, which is the present moment, the divine now. And it's interesting because as we sort of say, well, this is going to happen or this did happen, and we start actually playing with the false construct of time, then we sort of disperse that energy. But if we are just in the moment, which is why heart and mind cohesion is so powerful, as it allows the heart to actually integrate with the mind so that the logical, the ego, the linear mind isn't at the driving wheel. And that the heart, which is the powerful aspect of us, is steering the conversation, steering the experience. And what always happens when we get into heart and mind cohesion, the first thing that we do is we do this.
Oh, yeah, we let go.
And then we find the beauty in the now.
Yeah.
And it's actually a great place for healing too, because a lot of the conversation, especially because I do readings, I do intuitive readings, and everybody wants to know what's going to happen. What's going to happen with this? What's going to happen? What's the future have? What is my future? What is my future? And it's interesting because the work is really actually about getting you into the present moment and seeing that whatever you want in the future doesn't actually complete your now. And the cool thing is that the minute you become in the present moment and nothing in the external world actually makes this moment better or worse, then what's interesting is the external world will start to dance with beauty and magic for you. Yeah.
Well, I think another way of describing that, and I want to jump to another question here, but I think another way of describing what you just beautifully outlined is it doesn't add to our current experience because we start to bring that experience to the outside world. Right? We start to realize instead of importing from the outside, we start to export from the inside, right? We start to connect to that consciousness that we've been talking about this whole time and realize, oh, now I have a choice to not just feel it within me, but now I have a choice to allow others to feel it around me, right? To step into a room and share your frequency to export it to the collective evolution, right? Speaking of that though, Seth, I do want to, it's funny, Seth, I just want to comment here. It's nice I have all these questions I want to ask you, but you're such a powerful, loving soul that there's so much coming up in between them. It's so interesting to see where we're going here. But I do want to ask you this question because I know that you have very specific experience with this just based off your current incarnation. And what I want to ask you is, within this channeling, connecting to angelic consciousness, this new earth shift, everything we've talked about today, there's two energies that are always dancing back and forth, and that is the feminine and the masculine. And I'm wondering if you could speak to, in your opinion, the role of the masculine in everything we've talked about here today. And let me give a bit more context. What I mean by this is, you're in a male body, right? I'm in a male body. And I've noticed that the percentage of men, and maybe this is an illusion, but this is definitely my experience, the percentage of men that are sort of opening up to these channeling, intuitive, mystical, sensitive, emotional abilities, it's quite less at the moment than a lot of the powerful females out there doing the work. So I'm wondering, with all of this, what is your perspective on the role of the physical male within this sort of collective, angelic channeling consciousness shift that we've been talking about today?
Well, and it's interesting because it just in having this conversation with you, I can tell you that both of us are probably an pretty equal balance, maybe not completely, but a pretty equal balance of both polarities. And that is interesting because the male energy is about the doing and the female energy is about the receiving. So you have to have a receiver and you kind of have to have a doer as well. So you have to have both. And it's interesting because we also have found that over the last couple of generations, women are starting to take roles that were typically held by men. So they're embodying a certain amount of masculine and feminine energy too. And one of the things that I noticed is that the trend of elevating consciousness began with those who embody a great amount of female energy and is actually moving through the spectrum, if you could call it that. So I myself personally know many amazing masculine men who are embodying that caring and receptive part of themselves. And it doesn't mean that you're feminine to embody the female. It just means that you have a caring aspect, that you raise your awareness to love, raise your awareness, because as men, and I don't know about Australia, but in the United States, there's this masculine code that isn't quite as intense as sort of what's south of us from Mexico down in those cultures.
Machismo. Yeah.
Machismo, yeah. But there still is a bit of that in American culture, minus like, say, New York or Los Angeles or California or whatever, which is this idea that, you have to be a certain way and you're not allowed to feel. Well, that awareness of emotion, that feeling, is actually your power center. And as we move from a world where you can't do enough anymore, that's very interesting. You can't work enough jobs. You can't work hard enough to keep up with what the old system asks of you because it's in a destruct mode. And it's interesting because there was a time where you could do and it would be done, but now you can't do and it be done, which is showing the sort of the marrying back of both of them. But I do see it actually working through the spectrum. And it was very interesting because, and this is not exclusive, but let's say that, women, were very, very like Dolores Cannon and a lot of amazing people like that. And then, a lot of like, let's say gay men, because they would have that bit of receptive energy. And then it started working up, in there, not exclusive of any of that, because I've just seen it move through the spectrum through the time that I've been observing it. So it's making its way into that. And What's interesting is the masculine is also this sort of thought, this sort of like, ooh, I'm intelligent, and ooh, I went to school, so I have all the knowledge that needs to be known to know everything more than other people know. And that is that masculine trait that's working through too. And I'm finding people who considered themselves to be quite knowledgeable or have the corner market on knowledge and intelligence to kind of start to incorporate like, I need to be open to new
Intuition. Yeah, the intuitive feminine coming in.
That's why I teach it. Yeah, I teach an online course for developing intuition with the tarot, with an angel tarot, and I designed an angel tarot deck as well. And I do that literally because it's a tool to tap into that and to actually bring power to the surface.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, my friend, for the work that you're doing in the world, because I see you as a beautiful embodiment of that balance that, as you said at the start, as you were sharing just now, that you are an embodiment of that balance, of that polarity. And I think this is how this shift is going to continue. And I'm very aware of my embodiment of that through a lot of the speaking that I do and the podcast and, dancing with guests like you. I think we often underestimate our power of being the example, right? We often underestimate, yes, we can teach it like you're beautifully doing with the intuition, but we can also just be it and show others, right? For example, I always speak about my lovely father on the show, and, I've just seen him shift in beautiful ways, even without me directly talking to him, even without me directly, teaching him something or educating something. I've seen his masculine, take a little bit of a step back, and his beautiful feminine inside of him start to increase just by being around me. And I think that we can all do that, right? We can all do that, even if we are on the other side of it. We are in the female body and our feminine is really high, and we want the masculine to come up. Then be an example of what that looks like, even if you aren't seeing the physical representation of it yet. Right? I think we overestimate that.
Yeah, no, and it's true. And isn't it funny? Because that's what the physical body does through the construct of the false construct of time, is the physical body does that. Is if you're in a male body, it begins to diminish the testosterone production and increase the estrogen production. And the same thing happens in women in reverse. And technically, since we're in a body and we're here, we're not the body, but we're here to actually do our lessons, that it's actually our body working with us, our body working with our spiritual mission is the way that I see it, is that, as we go along and we expand at the level that we would expand. So we get into, like, let's say our 40s or 50s, and our testosterone production is different, right? Just by biologically happening. But at that same point also is that we've sort of gone from being like really rough and tough and that sort of thing into embodying that other aspect of ourselves too. Yeah.
So beautiful. I get, as you explain that, I just get beautiful visions of the future, which is in the now, of how it's sort of going to unfold in the coming years. So it's beautiful.
Yeah. And that's the reason we can see it, is because it is in the now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seth, I have really enjoyed this conversation. It's been a lovely dance, and it's been nice to be in your energy. I have one more question for you, but before we get to that, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, and if nothing comes through, that's all good too. But for powerful intuitives and channels like yourself, I really enjoy giving the space to you in this moment to share. As you open your channel, I know you connected to your guides before this conversation. I wanted to ask the question: if you tune into your channel in this moment, if the angels are with you, is there any message that you would like to share with me and my beautiful community that you think can give some value?
Absolutely. And this has to do with actually being in that introspection, because you may be questioning why, the minute that you've opened up to this higher consciousness, certain aspects of your life, which you assumed would become more magical, have become more challenging. And that's literally because you're being detoured or moved into the actual source of your power. And the example of which is, for example, we may wonder why all of a sudden we've opened up to this magical ability to create, and yet our financial aspects have become increasingly difficult. And that's because our true nature is to create circumventive of the current limited and in destruct mode financial system. We're going to create on a whole different level after that. But in order for you to up level the ability to do things in the new and quantum way, the old things that are in the limited ways are only limited in as much as that it's going to teach you, and never limited in the way that it's going to limit you. So it's ensuring that you step into your true nature instead of staying stuck in the linear nature. And it's a way of inviting the quantum field. And the cool thing is, like, if I use financiality as a sort of an example, the minute that you actually understand that your design is to create circumventing that limiting system, then as you climb up the ladder of that discovery, then suddenly that financial aspect will become easier, because you're not putting your creativity on that. Like, you're not creating money, you're creating a way to create without it. And then the money comes easier when you need it. So
The side effect.
Right. So the reason that things are more challenging now as a result of becoming conscious is because it's actually up-leveling you to your true power, which circumvents whatever it is that you feel limited by.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Seth.
Mm-hmm.
I got big waves of surrender, right? So keep surrendering, keep surrendering through those waves of maybe fear, maybe limiting beliefs as you start to make your way through that consciousness, as you were explaining. And just a beautiful reminder of what surrender allows us to do, and the act of letting go of those stories as we keep ascending. Seth, before we get to our last question now, and thank you for sharing that channel with us. You spoke a second ago about your tarot deck. If beautiful souls listening, tuning into this conversation today have got value, have been pulled to your magnetizing energy and consciousness, and they want to reach out to you, they want to find out more, where would you like to send them? You have a website, you've mentioned courses. What comes up?
Yes, my website. Thank you. And also I wanted to express that it's amazingly powerful and enjoyable to be here and in conversation and connection with you as well. And your amazing ooey gooey sparkly energy. I love it. So the guests would go to my website, which is talktomyangels.com, myangels.com. And from there, you can sign up for the course, the Angels and Tarot Masterclass, where I teach you how to tap into your intuition using tarot and connecting with your angels. Also, you can get on the wait list for when I teach, do group coaching. Events waitlist will get you on to let you know when I do another group coaching class, where I take a limited amount of people at a time and teach them what I know about connecting with the angels for the purpose of creating a better reality for yourself. The deck is on there. The deck is offered on there. You can order the deck on there. And if you're outside the US, just sort of send me a message first so that I can calculate the right shipping costs. But I love to have the deck all over the world. And also for sessions, hypnotherapy sessions that I do via Zoom, and readings. You can schedule a session there as well.
I think it's another benefit of connecting into angelic and quantum consciousness is there's no time and space. We've talked about the linear aspect today. We've been talking about the physicality aspect of it, and we can do it anywhere, right? Because we are here in the now. So me connecting to Seth on the other side of the world is like him being here in this space with me. It's the same thing. For everyone listening, I'll put all those details in the show notes as always, so you can just click on them. You can open up your player and you'll see Seth's website. You go straight to all those details. And we didn't get to talk about it today, but I just want to affirm and give an extra sort of celebration for the connection here of the angelic channeling with the tarot. And if people have been following me for a while, I just, the tarot is if you're looking to start channeling or connect to the angels or connect to your guides or open up your higher self-consciousness, the tarot is such a beautiful tool, right? We didn't get to talk about it today, but it's just the fact that you've done a deck, my friend, and you're selling it and teaching around it. I think it's such an important and powerful education that most people don't have. So thank you for doing that work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The last question, Seth, before I let you go here, this is, and I'm already excited about what your answer is going to be to this, but the question I have here is, this is the cosmic love antenna. And I spoke about at the start, much like you, I grew up in a religious upbringing, household, school system, and I was very disillusioned with my higher power, my God, being taught to me as a man on a cloud outside of me keeping score. And I became atheist. And then I came back to God through an understanding that God is love, right? And we are the cosmic antenna of love that connects to all things that are God. So I'm wondering, my friend, how do you define that love word in your reality?
It is the field of energy that is everything. And our access to it is our privilege, our duty. And it is our ability to understand it in this simulation. But it is everything. It is the creative force. It is everything that is.
My friend, I love you very much. Thank you for spending time.
I love you too.
Thank you for spending time with me today and sharing your frequency. Beautiful beings out there listening in the podcast world, thank you for giving us your time, your attention, your love. If this brought you value, please share it far and wide with a friend, a family member, and a lover. But regardless, we love you unconditionally. And until next time here on the show, we'll see you very soon. Bye, everyone. Before I leave you today, beautiful beings, I'm so excited to share a special announcement just with you. On the 20th to the 23rd of April, 2023, I and a fellow guest of the show, the beautiful Ali Pause, will be hosting live in Tulum, Mexico, the Cosmic Heart Tour. And I have Ali here with me now in this moment. Ali, I wanted to ask you, from my heart to yours, why should the beautiful souls listening come and join us in Mexico?
Well, when I hear Tulum, Mexico, well, I guess it's a yes for me, no matter what, because I feel like a lot of us in the last, it's been a couple years since we've been through this traumatic, whatever you want to call it. And also those in the Northern Hemisphere, particularly Canada, has really long, hardcore winters, and it can be cold and lonely. And I think a lot of us are craving this community and this healing, sacred space and travel. I haven't traveled in so long. So the fact that we met on Clubhouse like 2 years ago, and the people listening to us in our rooms, our events, have now connected with us, and we have the opportunity to meet and share our gifts together in a beautiful place in Tulum, Mexico, is unbelievable to me. I'm just to the moon. So there's a lot of different reasons. Those are what I'm excited about, as well as being able to share what I call my medicine that has helped me, which is the yoga, the meditation, the craniosacral, and our book that we're birthing. So I think there's a lot of little gifts and nuggets people can get from this experience. I've been doing retreats since 2014, and this healing immersive experience I know the power behind them. I know what goes into them. I know what people get out of them. So I'm just excited for whoever's coming, really. I mean, I'm excited to be actually facilitating something live because I've been doing everything online. And the fact that I can be with you, my dear friend, I'm ecstatic about it.
So I invite you to join us in Mexico. Join us for some meditations, activations, yoga, craniosacral therapy, a book release, a live Q&A, poetry, and so much more. These spots are going to fill up super quick because our intention is to make this exclusive and intimate. So please DM me Cosmic Heart Tour on any of my social channels. That's Cosmic Heart Tour on any of my social channels, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and we'll book in a meeting so you can join the love. I'm so excited to connect with you in the flesh. Thank you for listening to the Cosmic Love Antenna with me, your host, Harrison. If you gained value or this episode hit your heart, please remember to share this out with a friend, a family member, or a lover. You can also leave your love over on Apple reviews and Spotify star feedback, and this helps me spread my frequency to more souls in need. Finally, if you want to connect with me deeper, want to reach out, interested in coaching, please follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn at Harrison Meagher, spelled Meagher. Sending you so much love.